capture all the comments, and for those who weren't able to attend today, to have a resource to go back and reference. Our agenda briefly today is we're going to go through introducing the theme to you all. We're going to do a development update and talk about the timeline of the overall development at 231 Grant. We'll do a design presentation from our project architect and our landscape architect. Both we will pause for clarifying questions during that time. We will have an open design input and discussion following that presentation. And then at the end, we will have general listening sessions for question and answers for everyone, for you to have an opportunity so we can hear your feedback. This is an opportunity for us, for you not to only get an update on the development, but for us to hear from you. So we're happy you guys are all here today. And then we'll talk about next steps and where we're going from here. So again, thank you. Our main goal today is really to get your feedback. And we look forward to hearing from you. I will say throughout the presentation, there is an opportunity, there is a chat box at the bottom. If you're not familiar with Zoom, you can scroll to the bottom of your screen and look at chat. We will be monitoring the chat throughout the presentation and trying to respond to as many questions as we can there. If we don't get to your question in the chat, please raise your hand. We will try to call on you when we have a moment to do so, or follow up in our FAQ on our website. Okay, so just quickly want to introduce our team. As I said, I'm Kelly Hollywood. I'm with Mercy Housing. Also for Mercy Housing here today, we have Amy Bailey and Isaac Cruz. We have our development partners from Abode Communities, Megan Pearson here. Our beautiful project architect, Van Meters William Pollock, Lang Wang, and Fred Pollock is on. From Plural Landscape, we have Haley Watterson and Adeline Belsby. Thank you for joining us. And then we have our community outreach liaison, Sarah Chaffin, who is here. And we should have a representative from the Supervisor Smidian's office as well. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Kelly.
Thank you. Hi, Michaela. Thank you for being here. And then we have a few special guests that I just wanted to introduce for those of you who may not know them. We have the Chancellor of Foothill College here, Ms. Judy Miner, with us, and the Vice Chancellor of Business Services, Ms. Susan Chu. Thank you for joining us. And the President of De Anza, Mr. Lloyd Holmes. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate your time today. Okay, so next I'm going to pass it off to our development partner at Abode Communities, Megan, and she is just going to run through our development agenda or development. So thanks, Megan.
Great, thanks. Welcome everybody. We're super excited to be at this point. You know, a little over a year ago, we had this vision of a project, and now it's actually coming to fruition. So we're really excited to be here and share the design with you and get your feedback. So I just kind of wanted to give a little background on this development. As you know, it's at 231 Grant Avenue in Palo Alto. And the purpose of this development is to provide housing for educators. So that's affordable housing for educators, teachers, other facility staff, support staff, and we really want to serve the whole range of incomes. So we want to serve what's called the missing middle, which is families that are making a little bit more than what we would consider a typically affordable income. So their incomes are a little bit higher, but they can't quite afford a market rate. So we want to serve those families and some of the families that would be a traditional affordable. So we're looking for a project that can really meet a lot of needs within the educator community. And this project is in partnership with the County of Santa Clara, Facebook, and the County Supervisor's Office. So just to give you a quick overview on the project, the total project is 110 units, and we have studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedroom units. It's 4 stories tall and about 112,000 square feet. There's about 2,000 square feet of residential community space, and in the design presentation, you'll really get a sense of what all this is. And then we're going to offer a variety of amenities, including on-site laundry, landscape private courtyards, and on-site property management. We have 112 parking spaces, which works out to about 1 space per unit in a controlled access garage. And then we have a really wonderful bike room with about 134 bike spaces, and you're going to be seeing that in a bit. And then in addition to the amenities for the residents that are going to be living there, we also are trying to provide some amenities for the community. So we have 3 public spaces along Grant Avenue that we're envisioning as public plazas. And then we have a flex space, which we will also be talking about more later on, that's intended to be something that can serve residents and the community. Next slide. Okay, so we wanted to give you an overall timeline of where we are now, where we're going, and when we're going to be ready to open it up and welcome you all home. So in 2021, which is now, as you know, we're doing our community outreach. The county is working on our environmental impact report, and the draft of that should be ready during the early summer. And there will be a public meeting for that to review that. Then we're looking to go to the Board of Supervisors meeting to get our project approval in late summer, early fall. And then 2022, we'll be continuing with our outreach. Really that year, we're going to be working on our design and getting the permits to start construction. And then we're looking to start construction late summer, early fall of 2022. And then continuing construction and outreach in 2023 and finishing construction hopefully early 2024. And so that's kind of when the leasing would happen about that time. Okay, next slide. Do I have another slide? Okay, I have one more thing to say before I hand it off to you, Elaine. I can remember if I had another slide, sorry. So I just wanted to say again that, you know, we're super excited to be here and we're really excited about this project. And we really envision today as the start of a conversation. So we look forward to you hearing what you have to say. And we will be continuing to work with Foothill De Anza faculty, staff, and the community as we continue to develop the project. And you will have the opportunity at future meetings to give us more feedback, tell us your thoughts. And I wanted to just remind you that Sarah Chaffin is our community person, so you're going to see her email at the end. So you can reach out to her if you have any questions. And also just wanted to say that, you know, Mercy Housing and Abode Communities were two, you might not know who we are, but we're 2 very long-standing affordable housing developers in California. And we're really committed to this community outreach process and incorporating the things we hear into the project. So we really look forward to hearing what you have to say. And I guess I'll pause and ask if there's any burning questions about just the general development. And if nobody has any, then I'll hand it off to Elaine to walk you through our wonderful design. I don't see any, so I guess you're on, Elaine.
Okay. Okay. Last call for general questions. Well, we'll have plenty of time, I'm sure, to kind of return to those. Thank you all for joining. My name's Elaine Wong. I'm a project architect with Van Meter Williams Pollock. Really excited to be here with you all today and to kind of share our initial design concept, which we've been working closely with Mercy Housing and Abode Communities on. So the project 231 grant, as Megan and Kelly have mentioned, is part of a county site. So in Palo Alto, there's a county courthouse owned by the County of Santa Clara, and opposite is currently kind of a small office building with a lot of parking around it. And this is the location of the project site. It's in a really walkable and resource-rich neighborhood, California Avenue. Some of you are familiar with that area, is one of the downtowns in Palo Alto with the train station just right about here. And Park Boulevard is a very heavily trafficked bike boulevard, bike corridor that connects bridges kind of the north and the south parts of the city. There's a lot of things in the area already, number of shops and amenities, farmers market on Sundays, and then lots of multifamily. So it's really part of an existing neighborhood with a lot of residents who live there now. Some office buildings nearby. There will be a future public safety building just a couple blocks away, and a newly opened public parking garage is here as well. So just wanted to kind of give you a sense of where, you know, this project is, and the kind of context. This is Oregon Expressway, and El Camino is just right down here. So really great neighborhood. So wanted to just walk you through the general concept plan. This is the lower level floor plan and the site plan. So Grant is just right here. It's a very long site, and it's bounded by Birch Avenue on one side and Park Boulevard on the other, which was the bike boulevard. As Megan mentioned, we're hoping to provide 110 apartments, studios, 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms, and 5 of those apartments would be on the ground floor here, right off of Grant, each with a private stoop. And we really tried to kind of create a place that's really embedded in the neighborhood and you know, feels like a part of the existing community. And so we wanted to make these really nice places along Grant. So we've got 3 kind of public plaza areas along Grant, so to kind of make that a really nice walkable edge. So the central court is kind of where you would enter the building into a lobby. There's an elevator on one side and a stair on the other. A number of services just behind that. You know, some property management, as Megan said, parcel rooms for your mail, and huge bike room. So because it's so accessible to that bike boulevard, we wanted to provide ample parking for bikes, and a residential community room for resident activities, and flex space, which we will talk about a little bit more. There will be on-site car parking. This is our parking garage towards the back here, and we're planning for 112 parking spaces, mostly through some 2-level parking stackers that would be, you know, kind of controlled through electronic controls that allow you to drive in and then kind of drive back out. You can access the garage from either Birch or from Park, and so there's a kind of a throughway through the building that way. Going up the building, levels 2 and 4 are all very similar. It's 3 stories of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms that kind of stack above that lower level. Again, you know, along Grant, they all have great views for those public areas down below. And it's basically 2 kind of C shapes connected by an open air bridge in the middle. And the 2 C shapes really create 3 wonderful courtyards for residents to enjoy. And so that's you know, a great way to connect or to relax and reflect. And we'll be going through some options, and we would love to hear your feedback for those courtyard spaces a little bit down the road, or towards the end of this presentation. But we are very excited about the fact this will be a modular delivery. So you can kind of see we're highlighting the fact that you know, these units will consist of these modules that will be kind of stacked into place. But you know, there's a laundry on site, 1 for every level, and these corridor ends are kind of places for kind of informal connections, in addition to the courtyard spaces where, you know, there might be a variety of different types of programs or activities. So that kind of takes us through the basic floor plan, and we'll just kind of give you a spin around the building. With the modular delivery, we're kind of thinking, you know, a very basic and simple massing and concept design, but really wanting to dress up especially the street level. So we imagine that the garage entry will have some green walls and some nice street trees, and then just, you know, very the 3 apartment stories above will be kind of tied together with a great simple material palette and some metal sunshades and screening devices. Around the corner, so this is a kind of a neighborhood flex space, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We imagine that this could open up onto a really great plaza at the corner of Park in Grant. And continuing on down, this is kind of the community room at that lower level that'll front directly onto the street. Kind of might be a good people watching plaza. And it connects that sort of public corner with the main entry. in the central courtyard that will take you into the building, the lower level lobby with the elevator on one side and an open staircase on the other, which will kind of be, you know, hopefully kind of treehouse-like. As you walk up, you can experience, you know, the vegetation and the plantings and the courtyard below. Further down Grant, you can kind of see the building kind of is broken up into two basic areas with the community spaces on one side, and these are the lower level units with the stoops kind of fronting off of Grant Street. And turning around the corner, we wanted to kind of, you know, really kind of give it a rich material palette at the street level to be very warm and inviting. So turning around the corner, Birch is very similar to Park, except that there's some units on the corner, but the garage will be very similar and kind of screened in a similar way. So that's kind of the quick spin around the building, you know, to accommodate all of that program, all of those program elements. And we'll talk through a couple of specific ones because we'd love to get your feedback. So the first areas we want to kind of focus on are the common areas. So the residence activity space, that community room right off of Grant, the flex room, and we've got a couple, you know, thoughts about the bike room as well. And so, you know, wanted to just ask you, what kind of uses could you see for the common areas? And we, you know, have a few thoughts about that, but certainly want to make sure that we hear from you and what your thoughts are and what you might want to see if you were to live here, the activities that we could accommodate. So some of the thoughts we have so far, you know, being able to host family and friends, organize, you know, community events or, you know, host community events, spaces to relax or to lounge. Maybe even like accommodate some small businesses, like perhaps in the flex room. Or, you know, are you interested in seeing more exercise and fitness activities on site? Or even kids activities for those with families. So those are some of those are the thoughts that we have, but, you know, definitely want to hear your interests. I guess maybe I can go through some of these. Are we getting responses in the chat before we move forward with and drill down into each of those spaces specifically?
There's no questions in the chat yet, but I just remind people, if you do have specific questions or have ideas about what kind of uses you would like to see in the common areas, please feel free to chime in the chat box.
Awesome, thank you, Kelly. So yeah, just wanted to drill down a little bit in this residence activity space, you know, just curious, like in your free time, what do you want to do? You know, would you want to participate in group activities with some of the other residents? Would you want to just invite friends over and family perhaps, and, you know, maybe cook up a big meal and have communal meals? Are you interested in seeing, you know, creative activities in this activity space, or more sort of fitness and exercise oriented? But this is by no means the limit. We're very much, you know, interested in other possibilities that we're not imagining here. So wanted to kind of just open this up to you all in terms of possible activities for this residence space. Any thoughts? No? We are happy to continue and we can kind of revisit this, but we definitely, with these images up on the screen, would love to just kind of, you know, see what piques your interest or your imagination.
There are some questions that are coming through the chat now.
Okay.
I'll start with one that was kind of sent before the question was asked, but they saw a dog in the render and they wanted to know if it would be a pet-friendly building.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I might have to have Megan or Kelly respond to that.
I'm happy.
Or Amy.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Amy.
Well, I was just going to say, yes, it would be pet friendly. There will, as you can imagine, always be pet policies, and those have yet to be determined for this property. But we have many, many properties, and they are pet friendly. So the answer is yes. And there will be pet policies and, restrictions and conditions, et cetera, but it's still a pet-friendly property. It's just good health for everyone. Good question.
Yeah, and there's another question that says, will there be internet access throughout the entire space?
I will take that one. We are going to be working on providing as much internet access as we possibly can. Definitely internet connectivity and the digital divide is something that we are very focused on at Mercy and Abode, and want to make sure that we can provide access as much as possible. But of course, there are limitations on what we can feasibly afford and infrastructure that we can put in. So we will be looking to incorporate that as much as possible, as feasible.
Well, I might, or is there another question? I might kind of walk through the next couple ones, and maybe we can take some questions.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Go on. So in the flex room, we're just wondering, just from a lifestyle perspective, what would enrich your your day-to-day activities or your day-to-day life? Would you want to grab coffee on your way to work, or have a place to kind of get quick meals? Are you interested in seeing some after-school activities nearby, or would you like to see kind of an area for community gatherings, whether that they're social or more civic or just kind of intellectual? So just kind of sharing a smattering of images, just trying to understand, what are some things that might, be complementary to your life if you were to live here. I don't know if there might be a couple of questions that we would want to know. Okay, and then want to just kind of touch quickly on another community room. Mobility is kind of important. Transportation is always kind of core to our ability to get to work and for our well-being. But we've got this large bike room, and just kind of curious, for those of you who do use bikes, do you have just typical regular bikes that you need to store in a convenient and secure place, or do you have a need for an electric bike, or maybe some more family-friendly or cargo-friendly options? Just trying to understand what kind of needs we might need to accommodate, just to complement your lifestyle. And I don't know if there's anything that's coming through in the chat for that. But we can also just kind of pause for a bit, and now that you've seen some of these imagery. Just really curious, what are the most important things to you that you'd like to see in the common spaces? Is it, an opportunity to, host movies and game nights, or do some cooking, meal prep with each other or with outside friends, arts and crafts, music, thoughts?
So a couple comments in the chat, I'll just open it up.
Sure.
Looks like storage, additional storage room for skis, kayaks,
Okay.
outdoor equipment would be valuable. Not everyone,
Okay.
maybe everyone has a bike. So what are other areas that we could provide for outdoor activity storage? A community garden would be great. Thanks for that comment. We will get to discussing some of the landscape in just a moment. That's appreciated. I do also want to say, make a distinction about, we will have designated area on this ground floor for residents, which will be just for their residents and their invited guests, which is in the purple there. And the space in the blue is intended for more of an open community space that we're looking on how to program.
Great, that's really helpful
Kelly,
to hear.
Kelly, could you just repeat that last distinction one more time? Because sometimes, everybody's looking at the picture, and if you could just distinguish again the community room and the flex room.
Yeah, so the flex room, again, is an idea that we're looking at, not only an amenity for the residents, but also for the public community. So that could be something, potentially a small coffee shop or a bike shop, or, more of a community serving space that, potentially could have art shows or community meetings or something like that to more enrich the community, and uses that would actually be more of an outward facing, engaging front there on that corner. And then the resident activity space, you know, that is more things like that would be inward focusing. So, you know, homework clubs or areas for to host a family gathering, and or fitness classes that we could host in there. Potentially more ideas that it was really more resident engaging and community building, but amongst the residents who live there.
Are there any other things that are coming through, or does anybody have anything that they'd like to volunteer in terms of program activities, general thoughts?
And I would just say to folks who maybe don't want to write things in the chat, feel free to just speak. Because it sometimes something just comes to your mind. Part of the reason we're looking at these spaces is to understand how to build them out. You know, like if people thought there would be a reason that they would entertain folks there, you'd want to make sure there was some sort of, you know, even if it were a warming kitchen. So it gives the architects lots of ideas when you just say kinds of things that come to your mind, like you already have the bike and, you know, the kayak storage, for example.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hand this off to Haley, our landscape architects, if there are not
So there
any
is
more. Oh, there's a comment?
There is another comment about how about makerspace, where we could rent or share power tools to build things. Great idea. Resident areas should be open space for workout, social, rather than fixed exercise equipment.
Okay.
Also very helpful. Thank you for modeling. Good input. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's actually really good to hear.
Yep.
Fantastic. Anything else? Don't be shy. Okay. Well, I am happy to let Haley share some of her thoughts. Some of you have already touched on it, like the community gardens, and I will guess. So
what should we answer, Kelly, what's your preference? Should we answer questions as we see them come up? Or should we?
Why don't we go through this? We can go through this and then we'll make sure we'll go back through the chat questions to make sure we answered them all at the end and we've addressed everything.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Haley Watterson, a landscape architect on the team with Plural. So we are in the early stages of design of the open spaces for this project. And in this phase of our work, we're really thinking about what people might do in these outdoor spaces. So what we'll share with you today is a bunch of just ideas about what those activities might be, just to help spark ideas for what you might do in these spaces. So please let us know if you like any of the programs that you're hearing us talk about, or if there's other ideas that we should be considering. So this is a plan of the ground floor that we've seen in the previous slides with Grant on the top there, and Park on the right, and Birch on the left. Thanks, Elaine. And along the frontage of Grant Street, we're really trying to create, as Elaine mentioned, a really welcoming public fronting for this building. So there's a few small spaces that support the building and the programs adjacent to the building that we're thinking about. On the left corner, there's a really large existing Canary Island palm. It's over 50 feet tall existing tree that we're trying hard to really preserve for this project. And so we're looking at some ideas about what we might do around that palm. The building steps back at this corner, which just allows us to pop in a little nook to maybe sit and people watch, or just kind of get out of your unit and be outside for a little bit. Towards the center of the page is where the lobby would be, where most people would come through the building. Visitors or residents would arrive through this space. So we're thinking about ways people might use this. From a design perspective, we want to announce it as the front door of the building. We also want to make it feel kind of comfortable and soft, using lots of trees and planting and seating elements for people to kind of stay and sit for a while. So we're thinking about ways to engage people to stop for a second or have a place to sit if they're waiting for a guest to arrive. The next space we're looking at, we're calling the community porch. And you'll notice it's right adjacent to the resident common space that Elaine was talking about previously. So we think that that space, the interior space and this space on Grant are really working together to kind of indoor-outdoor kind of space. So we started to think of it as a porch in the traditional sense of, you know, sitting out and looking out onto the street. So there may be places to kind of engage people walking by. Grant is a pretty slow, pedestrian-friendly street, so it would be a nice place to kind of hang out, almost like a parklet, but not in the street. The last space here on the corner of Grant and Park, we're calling it Flex Plaza for the time being, but mostly because we see it as an outdoor space that will spill out from the Flex space that we've been talking about. So as we think about what that interior space is, it will start to inform what this plaza might be. So if it's a cafe, maybe there's cafe tables and chairs to sit outside. If it's maybe a children's learning space, there could be outdoor workspaces. Those are the types of things that we're thinking about. We'll also be looking at providing short-term bike parking on the street, just bike racks. We're looking at street trees. We'll be improving the sidewalks and upgrading all the accessible ramps and access to the site as well. So that's what we're thinking along this frontage.
Should we go next, or would
Yeah.
you like to stop with us?
The courtyards that Elaine mentioned are on the second level. And these courtyards will be for residents only. And they're accessed through the open air bridge that Elaine mentioned, which is actually a really neat feature. And will, I think in some ways, make these courtyards feel like they're really all connected, to have this kind of circulation that moves around the sides and the entries to these courtyards. And we want these spaces to, we hope for these spaces is to have them really enrich your lives and be a place where you can be outside, be in nature, be with other people if you wish, be on your own if you wish, and to really try to provide the activities that allow for this kind of range of lifestyles that people have and what you might want to do, whether you maybe want to be really social and gather with larger groups of people, or you may want to be a little bit more singular, or be with one or two people. So that we're trying to provide spaces that match all that spectrum of ways people like to be in their homes. So I think when we're going to present on the next couple of slides some ideas about what activities could be in these courtyards, just based on our past experience and what people like to do in these spaces. But again, please weigh in and let us know your thoughts. These courtyards, because they are set into the building, they will be there'll be there's about 4 hours of sun during the middle of the year, but otherwise will be somewhat shady spaces. So getting planting and things like that will be really important. And what that does mean is it would potentially limit our ability to do things like community gardens or programs that require more solar exposure. So we can get into that in detail later if there's more curiosity about that. So the west courtyard is the largest courtyard of the three. So we think that there's opportunity here to have some other larger gatherings. We're looking at this, one of the ideas for this space is that it's where these larger groups gather and could do outdoor cooking. There could be lounges, places to gather with 4 to 6, 10, maybe even 12 people, where you might reserve a space, an outdoor cooking space that you can come and bring family and friends to gather and cook. There could be smaller lounge spaces as well. So a place to really do this kind of outdoor cooking gathering is what we were thinking. For the center courtyard, this space is connected to the laundry on this level. So our thinking here was that it might make some sense to provide activities that you could do while you're waiting for your laundry, or if you have your family with you, that they could be playing or exercising or doing things you might want to try to fit in while you're waiting for your laundry. It's also connected to the community bridge element, which will have a nice kind of indoor-outdoor spill-out space between the two. So we were thinking this might be a place for kind of some small play elements, a space that's really flexible, that children can run and get the energy out. Adults can maybe do some stretching. There could be organized or non-organized yoga classes. More of a really kind of flexible outdoor space that meets various needs. The East Courtyard, we were thinking that we wanted to provide somewhere in the project where people can be in a really kind of lush garden, and the focus is really on putting people in this nature biophilic environment that we know is really important for us and for our kind of restoration, and knowing that we all kind of work hard and need places to relax. And so thinking about this space that may have smaller spaces for 1 or 2 people to gather together. These could be spaces where you come and work outdoors, have small meetings. You could do tutoring in these spaces, but it's really just a garden that is a bit more quiet of a space. So those are the overview of the types of things that we are thinking about in the courtyards, and we threw out a lot of ideas and a lot of activities, and so I think what would be most helpful is helping us prioritize what are the most important activities, and anything that we didn't mention that we should explore fitting in. So we did hear something about community gardens. Are there any other ideas coming in from the chat?
This is Kelly. A comment came in that for the outdoor spaces, agree that shade and shelter from the sun is really important. The community porch looks amazing, or looks great. So thanks for including that. There is a consistent workout classes like kickboxing or Pilates opposed to once a week. So it sounds like moving your body, a space to move your body, whether that's indoors or outdoors, is probably of value to this group. But again, please raise your hand or put in the chat what activities are most important to you. We would like to be able to include everything, but we would like to know what you value. Okay, so a comment came in. I'm concerned that the barbecue, play, social gatherings, and any open courtyard spaces would be negatively impact peace and quiet for the residents in the area. The space is small and noise may travel. Yeah, that's a great concern. Maybe we can talk about how some of the planting and barriers might help that. How we're thinking of laying out the space.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's something that we need to always consider on these projects. I think there'll probably be a kind of management answer to this as well, but from the kind of landscape a design perspective, we'll definitely be providing buffers. There are units that have windows along these spaces, so we'll be really important to have planting that not only provides privacy, but does do some of that noise insulation as well. And trees and things like that will help with the privacy. So that's definitely something we'll be thinking about.
Yes, thank you. And then I will also say, yes, the more management side of that would be, for the barbecue or play or social gathering spaces, we will plan to have protocols and hours for the building that these spaces would be more readily available and accessible for residents. And it's everyone's home, so we want to make it as comfortable as possible for everyone to be there. So thank you for that comment, Pippa. Another comment came in: would some outdoor spaces have roofs that we could still sit outside when it's not raining too hard? So will any of the outdoor courtyards or public plazas have overhangs or roofs that we could still be outside in the rain?
Yeah, that's a great thought. Currently, there's no types of rain shelters in the design, but that's something we could look at.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea. Maybe there's, overhangs at some of these places we could put even in some of the front plazas or one of these courtyards where it could be a small little overhang, or even bigger, something like that, where you could still be outside. It's never really that cold in Palo Alto when it's raining outside. So it's still nice to enjoy fresh air.
Kelly, there is the community bridge area that's protected.
Right.
That fronts into the main courtyard, so that might help us think about how to use that area.
Great idea, right, of course.
We are planting lots of trees, so they'll be, they provide some rain filter, if you're okay with that.
In addition to Fred's comment, I also wanted to just, in addition to the community bridge, we are hoping that these ends that overlook the plazas below or a little bit more open air, so that might be kind of a covered zone to to have that indoor outdoor feel as well.
A few comments in the chat, I'll just reiterate in case everyone's not looking at the chat. There is no plan to have in-unit laundry facilities at this time. There are laundry facilities on each floor. I don't know if that was specifically pointed out, but on each floor centrally located off that courtyard, there will be a laundry rooms. And then are there indoor outdoor swimming pools? No, unfortunately, we have no space for pools at this community. While that would be a lovely amenity, we unfortunately cannot fit that here. This is a great comment, and that just came in. Are there electrical outlets for us to plug in our laptops when sitting outside? And that's actually a great question and opens up a whole other conversation is, as you can see, outdoor workspaces. Is that of value? And we know that a lot of you are in the education field or may have partners or family members that come home and do work from their homes, and so that might not necessarily always be in your unit, but might be in a courtyard or more of a public space that you would like to interact with people. So if that's of value, yeah, we would definitely be looking at maybe in one of those courtyards having more reflective space that you could go out and work or take a conference call from the courtyard there.
And actually include the ability to plug things in or have some stations I think that was part of the comment, which was great.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if maybe go back to the slide before this, Elaine. We can see, yeah, exactly. We have these, you know, potentially doing something like this might be a value where we could put some plugs underneath there to actually have, you know, you could sit out there for a longer period of time than just the charge that your computer could hold. A great idea.
After that, I guess we'll make sure our Wi-Fi is extending out to the courtyards too.
Yes, great point. Or else everyone would be carrying their hotspots around with them, which is not always feasible.
There's a question about for the 4th floor, is it stairs only?
No, no. We have a bank of elevators that would allow that would go up to the top floor.
But the stairs are an encouragement for healthy living.
Yes, should you be so inclined. And if there are images that any of you would like us to return to, they were thought-provoking or something that you wanted to revisit, we're happy to kind of go back to anything that you saw that you had a reaction to, positive or negative.
Hi, everyone. So one question, just scrolling back up through the chat, that was put in is how will be determined who gets to occupy the space? And if I can take a guess at maybe what you're getting at, is maybe some of the community spaces on the ground floor. So these courtyards would really be open to just the residents of the community and potential guests that you might have, you know, directly with you. But the ground floor spaces, the 2 spaces on the ground floor, both the resident activity space and the flex room, the resident activity space is really meant to be reserved by residents for potential uses or, you know, hosted activities that are hosted by management or, you know, our programs department that might host an event there. So that's really, you know, inward facing, you know, a community of residents and their direct guests only. And then the flex space, that's something that we're exploring, trying to figure out, hey, how would that best be used for, you know, more community serving purposes, outward facing, whether that's a small business or public classes or meetings, or, you know, other special kind of use spaces like, you know, a maker space, something like that. And I think that's something we're looking to determine more of a permanent use of that space for the long term. But this resident activity space, we kind of envision it more as a multi-purpose space, something that can kind of encompass all activities and be used for the various purposes throughout the time. So maybe that answers your question. And if not, then let us know if we can clarify more.
There was the earlier question about would it be available to individuals, and you answered it in the chat. That based on, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the unit sizes, the home sizes are studio 1 and 2 bedrooms. And typically that ranges from an individual up to a family of 5 for a 2-bedroom. And we will determine, you know, really our application rental criteria. We're kind of working through that at a later, you know, and that's to be determined, but it's imagined that, you know, individuals up to small families would be able to be accommodated here.
Yeah, and there's kind of a follow-up question on that. How many schools are participating in the project? And we have 5 school districts that are participating, 4 Santa Clara County school districts, and then of course your Foothill De Anza Community College District. And then we also have a portion of the units that are for San Mateo County school districts. So kind of big picture, the way it's going to work is each school district will have their allotment of units. And so those will be the units available to the people working within that designated school district.
Which is also connected to the much earlier question about how will you determine who gets to occupy the spaces. And as Kelly mentioned, and now Megan alluded to, that's all to be determined. We're working closely with the school districts to figure it out. And that part hasn't quite started yet. So we'll get there. Duration of the stay.
So I think that question's maybe asking if we're going to have any limits on how long you can live in the units. We will not have a limit as long as you work for the school district or community college district. You would qualify to live there.
And I will add in, you know, as Amy mentioned, we are still working on, you know, that entire process with districts directly and with the county directly. But our intention is that, you know, it'll be a completely transparent process, you know, fair and inclusive in any way that we can possibly make it to, you know, all eligible residents and faculty, or sorry, residents, staff and faculty. Yeah.
But, you know, just to acknowledge, as someone mentioned, there's only X number of units and there's a lot of districts, which just means we need to do lots more of these. That's the way we look at it.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the wonderful comments that we've gotten thus far. And I want to throw it back up to our architect and landscape architect. Are there any specific questions that I would just say, you want to go back, some of those slides we went through pretty quickly, you want to go back and highlight, you're like, this is a burning question I'm ready to get an answer to. Maybe we can call on someone in our group here to try to help us answer.
No,
Okay.
I'm good. I don't know. Haley, do you have any additional questions?
If not, no, go ahead.
I guess it would be good to hear about when we're thinking about any kind of children's play spaces, like what age range we should be thinking about for those spaces.
Yeah, great point. What size families, you know, households do you all have? What age range for children's play areas might be valuable? Let us know so we can start working on what those movement spaces may look like.
I would generally suggest that there's so many variables here, and there's so many school districts. One person saying, well, my kids are this age it's not really going to be part of what's useful. I think the flexibility of the way we create spaces will make the most difference. And to the extent that people have observations about what kind of areas their kids like to play in, that they've noticed apply to lots of different ages, that would be helpful to hear. Those of you who have small persons or mid-sized persons, if you have any fascinating and creative thoughts that you've observed, but yeah.
So there's a question in the chat about the pricing information on rent. which I'm sure everybody is very interested in. And I will say that's something we're still determining. We're still working through that. As I mentioned at the outset, the intent is that these are affordable units and affordable to a range of incomes. So definitely, as we have that information, we will be providing it to people. But we're still working out those exact numbers right now. And I guess I could say the intention is that the rents will be less than what is a market rate unit. That'll make it affordable.
Thanks, Megan. Well, thank you, Elaine and Healy, for your presentation on design today. We really appreciate your time. And I just want to move on and follow up with our next steps. Again, our chat is still open. If there's any follow-up questions, if you want to reach out to us directly, please raise your hand or submit in the chat. We are happy to stay longer to answer your questions. I just want to talk about a couple of future next steps. We will be having general community meetings held in April that will be open to the neighborhood. Everyone is welcome to attend those, and you can find more information about those on our website to be coming up. There will be follow-up meetings in May that will be announced. And if you got an invite to this meeting, you will likely be on our interest list to get invites to follow-up meetings in the future. If this invite was forwarded to you by someone else, thank you for joining and thanks for finding us today. But we encourage you to sign up go to our website and sign up through our contact list, and then you'll be put on our outreach list. So any future outreach, we will make sure it gets to you. And we, as we had mentioned, encourage feedback. We want to get all your input that we possibly can. You can feel free to reach out to us directly by mail to Mercy Housing and Abode Communities. By email, you can email Isaac Cruz at isaac.cruz@mercyhousing.org, and also visit our website at 231grant.org. And again, website, go to the contacts form on the website, and you can submit your information and questions there, and we'd be happy to reach out to you via email or give you a call to discuss the project directly. We again, thank you for the time, your time today. We know it's very valuable as we are dealing with a lot in our community, our direct communities, and we really appreciate and value your input today. So we look forward to you. I want to open it up to Amy and Sarah, who are our wonderful community liaisons, if they want to add anything about next steps coming up here.
I just want to say, thank everyone for coming, and just make sure that they're aware, if they have any questions or concerns, please, feel free to reach out, and we will make sure, to get in touch with you. And the other thing that'll be important is, as we go forward, we will have some public hearings, and anyone that it would be interested as well in supporting the project and discussing the importance of this type of housing, we would welcome if you would please let us know too, so that we could potentially call on your support, as needed. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their time.
I would also thank everyone, because we know time is precious. The one last thing is to note, if you know people that wanted to join this meeting and couldn't because they were doing things, the recording also will be posted on the website that Kelly already went through all those details. And then we intend to have general meetings in May, but then more school-specific meetings in the fall. So, this has a long process and timeline. So that would be the goal, to have more school-specific meetings later on in the fall, and just as we continue in the process. So thank you all very much for being here. We're really very grateful. And if the one other thing that Kelly we were talking about, if we covered things, which fine, and you have thoughts about it, do give us that input. But if we didn't cover some things, we're hoping we paused enough and let time for you to have things sink in and then have a thought. But if we just completely miss something, please let us know that as well. You know, good teachers give good critique, and that's what we need. So there you are. I think Kelly's gonna say goodbye.
Thanks, Amy. That's it. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it, and have a wonderful evening. So thank you all. Thanks for joining us.